Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? You guys gave us a ton of great material on IShowSpeed, so we're going to take a crack at figuring out his story.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Totally. So, IShowSpeed, aka Darren Watkins Jr., he's not just another gamer, right? He's kind of a phenomenon.
Huge. Yeah,
Exactly. And his story, it's a wild ride to online fame, full of highs and lows, and honestly, it says a lot about the world we live in today.
it really does.
So we're going to unpack all of that, the good, the bad, the controversies, everything, to try and understand just what makes him tick and why people are so drawn to him.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome. So let's start at the beginning. Regular kid from Cincinnati, born in 2005, loves video games, pretty standard stuff, right? But even back then, it seems like he had this drive, this vision that gaming wasn't just a hobby for him, it was a potential career path.
Right, and that's something a lot of kids dream about.
Oh, absolutely. But was that even a realistic goal back then? I mean, to go from playing games in your bedroom to becoming this global superstar, that's a pretty big leap.
Yeah, back when Speed was first starting out, making a living as a streamer, let alone becoming, like you said, a global phenomenon, it was a long shot, for sure.
So what were the odds like?
Honestly, the odds were stacked against him, to say the least. Think about how many people are out there uploading gaming content every single day. It's a very crowded field.
And yet, here we are talking about him. It's kind of wild when you think about it.
It really is. It speaks to his persistence. He started putting videos on YouTube back in 2016, and those early attempts, well, they weren't exactly setting the world on fire.
Right. He wasn't an overnight success story, that's for sure.
Not at all, but he stuck with it. And that's crucial. He had that fire, that drive to keep creating, even when success was knocking on his door.
And that's something I wanted to touch on, this idea of persistence. Because between 2018 and 2020, things started to shift for him. He was finding his voice, developing his style, and then, bam, the pandemic hits.
And that changed everything.
Completely. The world shuts down, and everyone's online looking for connection, for entertainment, for an escape from everything happening. What kind of impact did that global shift have on a creator like IShowSpeed? I mean, he seems to thrive on that direct interaction with his audience.
Right, and you can see that energy in his content.
Exactly. So how did he navigate that sudden surge in online activity? Was he just in the right place at the right time, or was there something more to it?
It's a bit of both, I'd say. There's no doubt that countless creators benefited from the surge in online content consumption during that time, but for someone like Speed, who was already developing a distinct style, he was a game changer. The pandemic amplified everything.
So it was like the perfect storm, in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where those elements we talked about earlier, his raw emotion, that unpredictable nature, the humor, it all started to resonate with a much wider audience who were craving that same kind of energy and connection.
It's like he was this breath of fresh air in a time when everything felt so heavy and uncertain.
Precisely. People were drawn to his authenticity, to the fact that he wasn't afraid to be himself, to react authentically, to be vulnerable even. It was refreshing, and it translated into incredible growth for him. His live streams took off, his audience engagement exploded, and suddenly everyone knew the name IShowSpeed.
He was officially on the map.
100%.
But then things take another interesting turn, right? He starts focusing heavily on FIFA in 2021. It's not just a shift in content, it feels like a complete transformation of his trajectory. What was it about FIFA that resonated so strongly with both Speed and his audience?
That's a really good question, and I'm not sure the source material gives us a clear answer as to the why behind that decision, but it's clear that Speed tapped into something special with FIFA. Maybe it was the global appeal of the game or the fact that it's so intensely competitive, which plays well into Speed's personality, but whatever it was, it worked.
Oh, it totally worked. He went all in on FIFA, and the results speak for themselves.
And the way he approached it, too, it wasn't just about playing the game. It was about the experience, the raw emotion, the hilarious commentary. He turned every goal, every win, every loss into this must-see event.
And those catchphrases, Sue, it became synonymous with him.
Exactly. He understood how to create these meme-worthy moments that people would share and talk about. It was brilliant, really.
And that's where platforms like TikTok and Twitter come into play, right? Those short, shareable clips of his most outrageous moments, they spread like wildfire.
Like wildfire is right. It was the perfect marriage of content and platform. Speed's content was tailor-made for the way people consume media today. Short bursts, high impact, easily digestible, and most importantly, shareable.
It's amazing how these different platforms can amplify someone's fame so quickly.
Absolutely. It's a whole new world out there. And for Speed, this cross-platform success catapulted him to a whole new level of fame. But of course, that rapid ascent wasn't without its challenges.
Right, and it's important that we address those challenges, especially the controversies that have come up along the way. But before we dive into that, let's take a step back for a second and acknowledge the pressures that come with this level of fame, especially for someone as young as IShowSpeed.
It's a lot of pressure for sure, especially when you consider the speed at which everything happens online. One minute you're posting from your bedroom, the next you've got millions of eyes on you, and not all of them are friendly.
That's a really good point. It's easy to forget that there's a real person behind the screen, someone who's still figuring things out, making mistakes, just like anyone else.
Exactly. And those mistakes, they tend to get amplified when you're in the public eye.
And we can't talk about IShowSpeed without addressing the elephant in the room, the Valorant incident back in 2022. It definitely cast a shadow over his success and sparked a lot of conversations, some of it not so great, about online behavior, especially for someone with such a massive platform.
Yeah, that was a tough one. And it really highlighted the responsibility that comes with having that kind of reach and influence.
Absolutely, because words matter, right? And when you have millions of people listening to you, hanging on your every word, it's even more crucial to be mindful of what you say and how you say it.
100%. And I think it's important to consider Speed's age at the time of that incident. He was still incredibly young, barely an adult, and dealing with the pressures of fame on a global scale.
Which is something I wanted to ask you about, because the source material we got, it touches on this idea of fame at a young age and how challenging that can be. It's a lot for anyone to handle, let alone someone who's still navigating their late teens.
It's a unique kind of pressure cooker. You're thrust into this world where everyone has an opinion about you, where everything you do is scrutinized, and it's hard to separate what's real from what's just the online persona.
Right? It's like this weird double life almost.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's easy to lose yourself in that, to start believing the hype, or conversely, to become overwhelmed by the negativity. It takes a lot of strength and self-awareness to navigate that space in
Right.
a healthy way.
And to Speed's credit, he did acknowledge his mistake, issued that public apology, and seemed to genuinely want to learn from the experience.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
Because anyone can make a mistake, especially in the heat of the moment. But it's what you do afterward that really counts. Owning your mistakes, taking responsibility for your actions, that's a sign of maturity.
And it shows real character.
It does. It tells your audience that you're listening, that you're learning, and that you're committed to being better.
And that's exactly what Speed did. He didn't let that incident define him. He could have easily retreated, become more guarded, but instead he seemed to channel that experience into growth, which I find really admirable.
Right. He owned it, learned from it, and came back even stronger. Talk about resilience.
Exactly. And it wasn't just about bouncing back, it was about evolving. By 2022, he wasn't just the FIFA guy anymore. He was branching out, trying new things.
And crushing it. The Sidemen charity football match. Remember that?
Oh, how could I forget? Talk about a moment. It wasn't even about gaming, really, but there he was, scoring goals, celebrating like he just won the World Cup, and the crowd was loving it.
See, that's that crossover appeal I was talking about earlier.
Mm.
He just has this infectious energy that transcends the digital world. People connect with him on a purely human level.
He's entertaining. Whether he's playing a video game or kicking a ball around a field, it's pretty remarkable.
It is. It speaks to his versatility, his ability to adapt and entertain across different mediums.
And then there's the music. Ronaldo. Sui. It wasn't just a catchy song. It was a full-blown cultural moment.
Tell me about it. It was everywhere. Even my grandmother was humming it.
I love that. It just goes to show IShowSpeed is more than just a gamer. He's a brand, a personality, an entertainer in the truest sense of the word.
He gets it. You know,
Mhm.
he understands the assignment. Today's entertainment landscape, it's all about being fluid, about connecting with your audience in new and unexpected ways. And Speed, he's a master at that.
He's got his finger on the pulse, that's for sure. But for all the public antics, the larger-than-life persona, I'm curious about the man behind the screen. The source material we got, it hints at the pressures of fame, the toll it can take, especially at such a young age.
Yeah, it's something we often overlook, isn't it? We see the success, the followers, the brand deals, but we rarely stop to consider what it takes to maintain that persona day in and day out. It's exhausting.
It can be isolating, too, because who do you talk to when you're going through something like that, when your entire life is playing out on a global stage?
Exactly, and that's something I'm really curious about. How does someone like IShowSpeed, who thrives on that connection with his audience, how does he reconcile that with the need for privacy, for boundaries? How does he stay grounded when the whole world feels like it's watching you?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Honestly, I don't think there's a simple answer. It's complex. On one hand, you could look at Speed's story and say, yeah, this is a unique set of circumstances.
Right, like it's this perfect storm of personality, timing, talent. Exactly. He emerges at a time when the world is craving that authentic connection. The rules of fame are changing, and he's got that raw, unfiltered energy that just clicks.
But it's got to be more than just being in the right place at the right time, right?
Right.
Because he's managed to stay relevant, stay connected with his audience, even as the internet continues to change so rapidly.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I think his adaptability comes into play. He's not afraid to experiment, to try new things, to push the boundaries a bit.
Like with his music, right?
Yeah,
Ronaldo Sui.
exactly. That could easily been just a novelty song, a one-hit wonder, but it became a legitimate hit,
Which proves he can reach an audience beyond the gaming community.
for sure. He gets it. He understands that today's entertainment world is about being fluid, about connecting with your audience on multiple platforms in new and unexpected
It's
ways.
like he's almost hardwired for this new world of content creation.
In a way, yeah, because he's a product of the internet himself, right?
Yeah.
He understands its language, its humor, its pace. He knows how to create content that's shareable, that's snackable, that people want to talk about.
And he's built this incredible career, this whole empire, really, by being himself, even when it's
Right.
messy, even when it's unpredictable.
And that's what's so refreshing about it. Because in a world where everything can feel so polished, so curated, so fake,
He's the real deal.
exactly. And audiences, especially younger generations, they can spot a phony a mile away.
Yeah.
They crave authenticity, even if it's a little rough around the edges.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of IShowSpeed, I'm left with this question. Is his story a blueprint for success in the digital age? Or is he a unique case, a one-of-a-kind talent that can't be replicated?
Ah, that's the big question, isn't it? And I honestly don't know if there's a clear answer, but I do think there are takeaways from his journey that apply to anyone trying to make their mark online. Well, authenticity, for one. Be yourself, be genuine, connect with your audience on a human level, and be adaptable. Don't be afraid to try new things, to experiment, to evolve.
Because the internet waits for no one.
Exactly. And never, ever underestimate the power of a genuine connection. People can spot a fake from a mile away.
Yeah.
Be real, be you, and the rest will follow.
Those are some wise words to live by, both online and offline. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. It's been a wild ride, but that's IShowSpeed for you. Never a dull moment. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the fascinating world of online personalities.